Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville, which I've just called to order. I'd like to direct your attention to the clerk of the Town of Oakville, Ms. Vicky Titanic.
The singing of our national anthem. It's my pleasure this evening to introduce our Ward 6 local councillor, Lishchinya, to our 2014-2018 Oakville Town Council. And now I call upon the Honourable Mr. Justice Jamie K. Trimble to administer the declaration of office. Thank you.
Mr. Chinna, would you stand, please? Excuse me, it's my pleasure to administer the declaration of office in accordance with Section 232 of the Municipal Act 2001. Councillor Natalia Lishchinya, if you wish to swear this oath or declaration on a holy book of your choosing or other symbol of your faith, please take it in your right hand. Excuse me. Having been elected to the office of Ward 6 Town Councillor in the town of Oakville, do you solemnly promise and declare that, 1, you will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of your knowledge and ability, 2, that you have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner, 3, you will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. 4, you will be faithful excuse me, and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. And you make this solemn promise and declaration, conscientiously believing it to be true, and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath. Councillor Lishchinya, do you so declare? Thank you. It's my pleasure to confirm that the member of council has now taken the declaration of office declared before me at the town of Oakville this 20th day of July 2015. Councillor Lishchinya, please accept my best wishes as you govern the town of Oakville over this term, and may all your decisions be wise. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honour. And now, Mayor Burton, it's my pleasure to call upon you to continue the business portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councillor Lishchinya, congratulations on behalf of all of Council. And I will tell you that being applauded by the public and the Council does not happen every night. But if your decisions are wise, I believe it's safe to say that you will have it happen to you again, because it has happened over the last 8 or 9 years in a very delightful way. And I'm sure that with you on our council, we will all perhaps hear that sound. It's a happy occasion for us on council because we are complete again after having been deprived of the member who served in your place before by a tragic death before its time. And everyone on council joins me in offering to work with you and to do everything we can in our power to make you as successful as you would like to be as a councillor on this town council. So welcome. Madam Clerk, do we have any regrets for this evening?
Yes, we have regrets from Councillor O'Meara.
And council, do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest? Madam Clerk, I see none. Council, we have the minutes of the previous council meetings of June 29th and July 6th and the confidential minutes of the closed session of council from July 6th. Councillor Dudek and Councillor Robinson are moving and seconding the adoption of the minutes. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? These are as revised and put before you with those revisions, just to be sure that everyone at home knows that what's been moved, but the councillors certainly know what they're moving. So then we have no public presentations, but we do have a delegation from Pradeep Chand. Is Mr. Chand here? I don't see him. We had a scheduled delegation. No matter, we have a volunteer substitute delegation. Council Fraser DeMoff would like to make a delegation, right? Oh, we have two others in the addendums. I'm sorry. Well, we may as well deal with that matter. It requires your approval to add Fraser DeMoff to the delegation list. Councillor Dudek and Councillor Hutchins. I was just thinking maybe Mom doesn't want to do it. Or maybe she does. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And Fraser, you will be heard after the two listed delegations. Madam Clerk, would you call the listed delegations?
The first delegation is Jillian Sprosson of Walnut House Bed and Breakfast, here to speak to item 2 of tonight's agenda.
As Jillian and I are pretty much on the same page, I'm speaking for both of us, and in fact, Kimberly Scott, who is the third B&B owner as well. I'd very much like to thank Council for this opportunity. I've operated Melfort Cottage Bed and Breakfast since 2002, same amount of time as Jill has, actually. I love this job and we consider ourselves passionate ambassadors for Oakville. Given the success of our businesses and our many return guests, we think it's working. What isn't working at the moment is the unfair situation in terms of licensing. To pay several $100s in licensing each year, while most other B&B operators in town do not, is simply unfair. Sadly, this situation is not new. We have repeatedly stated our concerns over the past several years at the cost of licensing, in particular, fire department inspections, and as they've risen in cost substantially. We're grateful to Kimberly Scott for raising this issue with Council and for your ear tonight as to the problems of unfair licensing. Jill, Kimberly, and I have requested a more equitable situation in that none of the competing jurisdictions, Milton, Georgetown, Burlington, Mississauga, pay these extraordinary fees. While I'd very much like to see these fees abolished, or at least enforced, to my knowledge currently, that's not the case. We very much appreciate Councillors DeMoff and Dudek's recommendation that the fees be waived while you as a council study this. I understand this is a quandary for you as a council as to how to carry on. I just don't think that 3 small bed and breakfasts should have to shoulder the burden. Thanks for listening to our concerns. Oh, if you have any questions, we can take them.
Hold on. Ms. Donaldson, thank you very much for the presentation, the information, and the efficiency of speaking together. Council always appreciates that. Are there any questions? Councillor Giddings.
Thank you so much for coming out. It's been a while since we've talked about this, and I've been talking with Kimberly about it as well. Rough number, if you were to go to Airbnb and look at the area, how many establishments do you think we'd see right now?
50. Over 50, 56 yeah. I counted this weekend, yes.
And they're offering similar services as you are.
They are. Some of them don't have what I'd call a full bed and breakfast. It's more a bed for the night and usually breakfast. Some of them are though, several of them have full houses that are let by the night or the whatever.
For extended periods sometimes too.
So it's substantial money that's involved.
So your desire is to see a more equal playing field?
Yes, that's right.
All right,
That
thanks
they
so
have
much.
the same licensing.
Councillor Duddick.
Thank you. Thank you both for coming out this evening and sharing your experiences with us. In speaking, I know with you, Jillian, on occasion, you're in fairly close proximity to the downtown core, and we have talked at length about the trying to revitalize the downtown core. And do you find that a lot of your clients or patrons invariably go down and shop, participate, and sort of, what shall I say, support local business?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, they
We
do.
throw bags and bags
Yeah.
away when they leave.
We do,
Are there
yeah.
empty bags?
And also the restaurants. I mean, the restaurants are used very much so, because we don't provide lunch and dinner, we just provide breakfast. So they go downtown, and we recommend they go downtown. Heather and I are really passionate about Oakville, and we're very sad at what's happening down there at the moment. And we'd like to see it revitalized, and we feel that our businesses would help that. But, yeah, thank you.
Couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your information. Mr. DeMoff.
Raise this a bit here, sorry. I want to start off by thanking Mayor Burton and Council for allowing me to speak this evening. I realized I had sent my email a little bit after noon, so I appreciate you still adding me to the list. I'd especially like to thank Cindy, who I know has spent a lot of time working on this issue over the last year or so since we last spoke. And it's an issue that is near and dear to my heart. And now I'm a kind of an energy nerd, so this may not be for everyone, but it's the community energy plan that Oakville is looking at doing. And for me, this is something that I live and breathe, and I work with a lot of Aboriginal communities across Ontario to do energy plans. So the fact that Oakville is looking at one is something that I'm really excited about. Now, to give reference to what a community energy plan is, I want to bring it back down to a municipal issue. So imagine the town of Oakville gave free rein to developers to build homes in new neighborhoods with no plan on where these homes would go, what the homes would look like, or how close they would be to the homes next to it. Now, obviously, the town does extensive studying and planning before neighborhoods are built. And I think what I'm asking is that we do the same thing when it comes to energy. So a community energy plan is essential to municipalities like Oakville, and a lot of our neighbors already have one. Guelph, Burlington, as far out as London, they have one, all with the intention to increase energy conservation and awareness, as well as to reduce GHG emissions. So, you know, a community energy plan would further enhance the town's planning process as well for future growth by including green technology and energy sustainability into the town's long-term plans. And one of the things that often goes unnoticed is that through the process of undertaking a community energy plan, a lot of the time residents in the community become much more aware of the energy usage in the community by developing a baseline on the certain areas of the town and how much energy is used. So, you know, echoing the community services report that many of you have already seen, you know, I'm really pleased that we're doing this, and I just want to really make a point that when we do this, that it's the community's plan for Oakville, not just the town of Oakville's plan for the community. And it's essential that through stakeholdering that we ensure that this plan is done the right way. So, you know, as an Oakville resident and someone who does live and breathe this stuff, I am really excited that that we're going to be doing this as a town. And again, thank you all for letting me speak this evening, and I look forward to seeing this move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeMoff. Mom, do you have questions? No. All right. But he did okay, didn't he? All right. That brings us to our standing committee reports, Council. The Community Services Committee report of July 14th, the Administrative Services Committee report of July 14th, and the confidential report of the closed session of the Administrative Services Committee of July 14th. How do you wish to deal with these matters? Councillor Adams and Councillor Elgar. Councillor Adams, you're moving them? Councillor Elgar, you're seconding them.
And I do believe that at the community services meeting, we did ask for a presentation of the transit that was done for us, so all of council could see it. So I'm seconding it, but just when we're going to have the presentation.
Well, we can have it whenever you like. Why don't we have a motion to have the presentation? And a seconder, Councillor Hutchins. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and the presentation is approved. Mr. Cole, presentation, please.
No, we got a slideshow. Here we go, I fixed it. Mayor Burton, members of council, good evening. As you may be aware, we recently retained the services of Parsons Brinckerhoff, a transportation consulting firm, to conduct a comprehensive review of our services. That includes specialized service, conventional fixed route service, administrative and support functions. And then the Parsons Brinckerhoff team worked with Oakville Transit staff to develop a 5-year plan for transit. So what we wanted to achieve through this plan was essentially to improve the customer experience. And from a transit perspective, that means a system that's more convenient. Greater convenience in transit is higher frequency, better connectivity, more reliable service, faster travel times. We also wanted to leverage the technology that we're about to launch in the fall of this year with our intelligent transportation system. And we wanted to figure out how to service new areas and new destinations. How do we achieve the vision of transit first in North Oakville as new areas develop? How do we get transit service into them at the earliest possible opportunity? How do we get to areas like the 407 Park and Rides, the new hospital? How do we service that? And how do we strengthen regional connectivity? And regional connectivity is not just between Peel, for example, and Halton. It's between Mississauga and Oakville and Burlington. Also with GO Transit, which accounts for about 30% of all of our rides. It also means strengthening connectivity within the Oakville Transit network itself. All right. We also wanted to maximize use of existing resources. So before we came to you and asked for anything in addition to what we have, we wanted to make sure that we made the absolute best possible use of the resources that you've already assigned to us. And we need a plan. We needed a plan that was sustainable and that was affordable. Now, Nancy Sully, Director of Financial Planning, is here this evening, and she's going to be providing you some details with respect to the affordability and sustainability of the plan, but I'm going to preempt her a little bit at this point in time and give you a bit of a summary of the impact on the Oakville Transit budget as a result of this plan. So over the life of this plan, essentially, there's no increase in the number of buses that we plan to purchase. What's in the forecast is in the forecast, and we're not asking for anything more. We also have no increase in the number of FTEs compared to the current forecast. What we've done is we've taken those bodies and we're assigning them where they can best support the plan. This plan results in an 8.7% better cost recovery than if we continue down the current path, and it saves us $1.7 million over the current operating budget forecast over the life of the plan. That's what I get for preempting Nancy. Yeah. There, I fixed it. So in developing this plan, excuse me, and conducting the review, we talked to anybody that would listen to us, basically. We talk to our customers on the buses. We talk to them at the terminals, on the platforms. We spoke with representatives from Halton Healthcare to see what the specific needs of the hospital were. We talked to Sheridan College, administrative staff, students, and student union. Transit management had input into the review, as did frontline staff through workshops. We provided opportunity for members of council, the executive management team from the town, and town planning staff. Public consultation included surveys of those who use our service, our customers, and people who don't use the service. What we found when we surveyed our customers, but only 46% of them were satisfied with the service. When asked what we needed to do to improve the service in their eyes, service frequency was number one. They wanted us to increase frequency of service. They wanted a more reliable service, longer hours, and better connections were also mentioned. This is very similar to what we found in the citizen survey. Most recent citizen survey found that 52%, and I'm going to say only 52%, of people, of residents, were satisfied with transit service in Oakville, down 8 points from the previous survey. They identified traffic congestion and transit as among the top 7 obstacles to livability, and the citizen survey also identified frequency as the single most important thing we could do, increasing frequency. And coincidentally, when we went to non-riders, they said the same thing. Service is not frequent enough. That's why they don't ride. What's the most important feature of transit? What are they looking for if we were going to get them out of their car and onto transit? More frequent service, better transfer coordination. Transfer coordination would be connectivity. And the majority of respondents, these are people not currently using the service, said that they would use the service if it was more frequent and if it was more reliable. Frequency and reliability was what the riders said. Non-riders said the same thing. So we looked to see if this was an Oakville unique situation. So we went to the GTHA results of the 2015 Metrolinx Customer Attitude Survey and found that 43% of people said they would get out of their personal automobiles and onto public transit if it was faster, more frequent, and more reliable. Frequency and reliability. So out of the review, we created a list of strategic priorities, and no surprise, frequency of service is top of the list. We also wanted to create a plan that addressed transit first, allowed us to achieve the vision of transit first, getting into the communities at the earliest opportunity. A plan that achieved better connectivity with GO and got us ready for Regional Express Rail, which, when that comes a few years down the road, will be 15-minute frequency both ways on the Lakeshore West Line. We needed a plan that addressed service to the new hospital and allowed us to leverage the benefits of technology to our customers' experience. We wanted to continue to address the needs of seniors and students. They have very unique needs, and I have a very unique need. There we go. Very important that we mitigate the optics of the empty bus. We hear this, especially at budget time, but we hear it every year. Buses are empty. Why are we operating 40-foot buses when there's nobody on them? So we needed a plan to mitigate that and ensure the success of the plan through strategic resourcing. We wanted a plan that was efficient, fully integrated, so that it's leveraging one initiative to the benefit of another, and that used innovative solutions. And again, affordability and sustainability were on our list. And lastly, we wanted to make sure that we had a means of measuring success, a means of monitoring our service as we moved forward and looking at the effectiveness of what we did and making adjustments, minor course corrections along the way as opposed to major adjustments every 5 years. Going back to frequency of service, the best place to put our resources is on high-demand routes. That's not just high-demand grid routes, it's high-demand local service as well. And we also wanted to create frequency of service that our customers understood by going to clock-face headways, 15, 30, and 60, instead of what we currently have now, which is a range of headways that run anywhere from 10 to 15, 20 minutes in some cases, 30, 40, 45, and 60. So we're going to keep it simple, 15, 30, and 60. We're going to improve connectivity with the GO train by matching their 30-minute frequency in midday. They went to 30-minute frequency. Many of our routes are still at 40 and 45. We go to 30 minutes. We schedule to connect. We strengthen the Trafalgar corridor. we'll have 3 routes running from the Uptown Core Terminal to the Oakville GO Station with a composite headway of 7.5 minutes. We're going to improve frequency to the benefit of connections with Burlington and Mississauga. Mississauga already has higher frequency service. In many cases, we'll be matching theirs. Burlington Transit to the west of us has frequency that matches ours more or less now, but there's no connections. So we want to ensure connectivity with Burlington. And we want to mitigate the impact of the frequent GO train schedule changes. Every time GO trains schedules change, we end up having to change our schedules, and we get a negative reaction from our customers. This is what the 15-minute peak network will look like. So essentially across the town, virtually, there's nowhere in the town that does not have reasonable access to 15-minute frequency during the AM and the PM peak service. To give you some idea of what it looks like in terms of the routes that benefit from service level improvements, that's it there. And virtually every route in the town sees either greater frequency or extensions to service or extensions to the span of service, being the hours of operation. Hours of operation are the blue lines. For example, Route 11 will become an all-day service. The dark green line are extensions to routes. You see the extension to Dundas out to the Burlington 407 Park and Ride, also out to Appleby Station in the west. So there's virtually no route that isn't benefiting from this. So how did we decide to address the vision of transit first? Through a somewhat innovative made in Oakville solution we refer to as commingled home to hub, and we're going to shorten that to home to hub. Commingling is essentially allowing able-bodied people, people who wouldn't otherwise qualify for specialized transit service, to use specialized transit service. Right now it operates at about 2.4 rides per hour. That's good productivity for specialized transit service. But it means that we have unused capacity of anywhere from 14 to 20 spots on that bus. So we can use that, and what we're doing in terms of home to hub is taking people from their home to the nearest transit hub. And in North Oakville, that would be from the 2 new developments to the Uptown Core Terminal. So it's a quick 3-4 minute trip, and they connect with frequent fixed route service. This service leverages existing resources. It requires no additional resources beyond what we have on the road right now, and we're using our existing dispatch and reservationist clerical staff. We're using existing drivers and existing buses. It allows us to put service into new developments north of Dundas at the earliest possible opportunity. And it's demand responsive, so as people need the service, we can provide it, and we can provide it at no additional cost. We improve GO train connectivity simply the way you improve connectivity on just about any service, greater frequency. The more frequent the service is, the better connections are. Improved connectivity during PM peak and AM peak to 15 minutes means the average wait time goes down to 7.5 minutes. Improved connectivity at 30 minutes in midday, we match the GO train schedules. And as I said, this is a major first step in getting us towards regional express rail. Access to the new hospital. So the plan introduces direct onto the hospital campus service effective December of 2015. And that service is going to be provided by our Caravan Specialized service on demand. It's also going to be provided by Route 5, Dundas, running east-west, and by Route 3, running north-south on 3rd line. That service will be extended north into the hospital campus. It'll also be extended south via a counterclockwise Rebecca, Bronte, Lakeshore, and 3rd line. So you're going to have 1-seat ride to the hospital from the Oakville GO station via the Dundas route, and you're going to have 1-seat ride from Bronte, from South Oakville Center, and from Bronte Station to the hospital. And that'll all happen when the hospital opens in December of this year. Leveraging technology to the benefit of the customers. ITS allows us to actually manage our service. At the moment, we have a supervisor out on the street or in a mobile. They can see what's in front of them, and if there's nothing in front of them, there's nothing for them to manage. With ITS, a supervisor in the control center can see every single bus on its route. They can see it where it is in real time, and they can see it relative to its schedule. They can slow buses down that are operating ahead. They can mitigate the impact of delays. This all impacts on service reliability. If you recall what the customers said, the riders, the non-riders, reliability was right behind frequency of service. We can measure our on-time performance, and we can report to you on our on-time performance. What percentage of our service is operating within a couple of minutes of schedule, whatever parameters we set. We can push out real-time information on bus arrivals and departures to our customers, to their handhelds, to their computers. We achieve AODA compliance all at the same time through onboard next stop announcements and through pre-boarding destination announcements. And we have the data with which to make evidence-based decisions going forward. As I said, we monitor the success. We monitor how well we're doing with respect to ridership, and we make adjustments as we go. Seniors and students are addressed with this plan. Senior specials are maintained. We currently operate 3 senior specials in town, 1 day a week to destinations of the senior's choice. We'll continue with the free seniors trips on Monday. In the end of 2014, we had provided 85,000 trips on Monday for seniors. We've already discussed how they'll have more convenient access to the new hospital. And really important for students and seniors is how vulnerable they are to increases in fares. This plan generates additional revenue through ridership as opposed to relying on fare increases. We improve frequency to Sheridan College because we improve access from both the east and the west. We improve frequency of service on the Trafalgar corridor. We have access from Burlington in the west and Mississauga in the east. This increased frequency and increased access makes transit more attractive to the students at Sheridan College and helps set the stage for a UPass. And then finally, this technology allows for variable message signs which could be put at, well, we're already putting them at terminals and at the GO stations, but we can actually put them in the lobbies of senior residences. So seniors could wait inside their lobby and look to see when the next bus is coming and go out, whether it's hot, whether it's freezing, a couple of minutes before the bus gets there instead of waiting on the curb wondering where it is. And of particular interest to students will be the web data and the mobile apps that will be available. So we wanted to make more efficient use of our fleet, and in doing so, we wanted to mitigate the optics of the empty bus. So there's 3 things you can essentially do with respect to empty bus observations. You can have a smaller bus, or you can eliminate the routes on which the empty bus observations are being made, or you can increase ridership. This plan does all 3 of those things. We maximize the use of our specialized transit fleet by engaging in the commingled home-to-hub service, and in doing so, we achieve the goal of AODA, and that's not compliance I'm talking about. The goal of AODA is inclusiveness, so it makes our transit system more inclusive because everybody's using all modes. We're not saying you can only use this one and you can only use that one. And on the smaller buses, some of you may recall that I said that we didn't buy smaller buses because they were more expensive. The life cycle costs were more, and that was the case. In 2008 was the last time we purchased 30-foot buses, and at that point, the cost of a 30-foot bus was 3.9% less than the cost of a 40-foot bus, and they cost 8 cents more a kilometer to operate. We recently awarded a contract for the purchase of 3 30-foot buses, and the difference between that and what we paid for the 40-foot bus was 25%, and we expect the operating cost of that bus to be less. So right off the bat, we have a lower life cycle cost. We also brought this particular bus and another one, we brought them in and had them inspected by our maintenance staff to see in terms of ease of maintenance. We had drivers drive them and test them and then fill out reports on them so that we could understand, whether they liked them and how they compared to the ones we already had, the ones we bought in 2005 and 2008. And they received glowing reviews from both maintenance staff and operators. So we're expecting great things from these new buses, and the really good news is they cost considerably less. We want a resource to ensure the success of the plan. So we're not just throwing a plan out there and keeping our fingers crossed. We're making sure we have the right people in the right positions to ensure the success. And as I said earlier, it doesn't require any more FTEs than we currently have in the forecast. And we've looked at every opportunity to combine functions, combine duties. So we're not just saying, well, if we need A done, we need a person for that. And if we need B done, we need another person. What we've done is at every opportunity, we've taken A and B and put them together into one position. We've got control center people that can double as evening or after hours specialized transit dispatch. We've got customer service and marketing brought together, and travel training and functional assessment when it comes to specialized transit. This all supports the focus on customer, improving the customer experience and building ridership, and also it achieves AODA compliance. Affordable and sustainable. In reviewing our service, in coming up with this plan, we've identified $4.6 million in resources that have already been allocated to Oakville Transit that we can put to better use. That's essentially 38,500 hours of service that we've said we're going to reallocate and create a more frequent network. We've done that in part, not totally, but in part through elimination of poor performing routes and restructuring of a number of routes. This plan improves cost recovery from where it is now at 30% to approximately 36% by the end of the 5 years. But more importantly, it reverses the downward trend in cost recovery. Our cost recovery rate has been sliding for the last 4 or 5 years. We project it will continue to do so over the next 4 or 5 years if we don't do something different. This is something different, and it saves $1.7 million from the current forecast. There's innovation throughout the plan. It starts with ITS and leveraging technology. It involves combining duties to where 2 jobs are being done by 1 person. It provides evidence-based review capability. We've never had that before. It uses commingling, which is arguably not being used anywhere. I believe it might be used in one other municipality in the country and then several in the US. It achieves AODA compliance. As I said, more importantly, it achieves an inclusive system. And Home to Hub is, again, a made in Oakville solution. It's not an origin to destination service. It's an origin to hub service. It takes the people, gets them to more frequent service quickly. So I'm going to speak just for a second about ridership projections, and I'm going to ask Nancy Sully to come up and give you some information on comparison of cost and revenue, net tax levy impact, cost recovery projections, and FTEs. From a ridership perspective, we've been increasing at a rate of about 1.7% a year for the last 3 years. If you project that out over the next 5 years, we'll see about an 8.8% increase. Essentially, we'd go from 3.1 million rides to 3.4 million rides. During that time, of course, our cost recovery will continue to decline. Implementing the plan, we'll see ridership increase from 3.1 million rides to just over 5 million rides. So by the time we get to 2020, we would have approximately 1.6 million more rides annually. So if you just did the straight math on a 365-day calendar, that comes to about 4,200 car trips off the road daily.
Sorry. So as Barry said, affordability and sustainability were key considerations when this plan was developed. So financial planning worked with transit very closely, reviewing all of the cost estimates in the plan and then comparing them to what we were already forecasting in our budget. So all of the costs that you see on this slide are in 2015 dollars. The gross costs presented in the transit service review are calculated based on the 2015 cost per revenue hour for our current conventional and caravan service, and then projected out based on the revised hourly service. In addition to that, they include administrative support that's required to make this plan a success. On the revenue side, the revenue increases are based on the ridership that Barry was just speaking to. So on the first line there, the gross cost in the budget book, that's what we were currently projecting. When we had the 2015 budget presented to council, we included a 2016 and 17 forecast. As well, when we did the 2014 10-year capital plan, we projected our operating costs out to 2023. So the costs that you see there in that first line are based on that projection. We do expect that the gross operating costs of our current delivery would rise to $36.2 million a year, or increase by $7.7 million. Under the proposed plan, they rise by $9.9 million, or to $38.4 million. However, where there's the difference is in the revenue side. In our current projections, we were only projecting a very minimal increase in ridership over the next 5 years, and that's based on what we've been seeing over the past few years. In this plan, with the increased ridership that's expected, we expect revenues to rise by $5 million, or $3.9 million more than what we were projecting in our current forecast. Well, this slide talks about operating impacts, but one thing I did want to mention, I was asked at CSC to provide some information on the impact development charges has on our transit delivery. When I went back and looked in our forecast, when we did our 2012 background study, I guess as a way of background, transit services are limited under the current act to our 10-year historical service average, and then they're further discounted by 10%. So when I went back and looked at the 2012 background study that projected our costs and gave us our funding envelope to 2021, there were $32 million worth of transit costs identified over the 10 years, growth-related costs. The envelope, based on the historical service average, was only $12 million. That means there's only $12 million available for transit. That was then further discounted by 10%, leaving us with about $11.7 million. We had to make up that shortfall with gas tax, and then we had to use tax levy to pay the 10%. But that, I want to put that in context. $32 million that was identified over the 10 years was based on what we could afford with our development charge funding envelope and our available gas tax. The Transportation Master Plan actually identified $145 million in transit capital improvements to 2031. Based on the current legislation, we'll never be able to achieve that without burdening the existing taxpayers. So Barry did, oh, I went the wrong way, sorry. So based on our current forecast, our net tax levy, and every year in the budget this gets quite a bit of attention. In 2015, our net tax levy support for transit was $19.8 million. Based on our current forecast under our current operations, we expect that to rise to $26.4 million in 2020, or $6.6 million more. Under the proposed plan, the costs rise to $4.9 million, $1.7 million less than what we are currently projecting. And you can see from this, in 2016, there is a bit of an impact over what was in the 2016 forecast. The $800,000 that's shown there, we would be recommending that that be funded from gas tax. And these, or sorry, provincial gas tax. These costs are based on a January 1st implementation. Barry will talk a little bit about a September implementation and the impact of that. And again, cost recovery ratios. As Barry mentioned, this is a very important slide. Our current projections show that our cost recovery is declining every year. However, under the proposed plan, they actually rise to 35.7%, or a 5.2% increase. And this would put us right in the middle of a typical transit system our size. So this is really good news, because the increased burden on the tax levy, if we continue with the path we're going, is going to make it more and more difficult as we move forward. We did do some sensitivity analysis on the ridership, because these cost recoveries are based on the increase in ridership. And we did determine that if our ridership numbers were off by about 8%, or 350,000 less rides, we would still see an increase in our cost recovery ratio to about 33%. And finally, the FTE comparison. We were projecting 57.4 new FTEs to 2020 with our current plan. And that primarily includes drivers for the additional buses that are identified in our capital forecast. Based on the proposed plan, the FTE count is just slightly lower at 57 FTEs. However, it does provide the mix of positions that are required to make this plan a success. As Barry indicated, it has marketing, it has support for customers, and a variety of other positions that are required. Back to you.
So as I indicated earlier, we're going to be monitoring the success of this plan, monitoring performance of our service as we move through the next 5 years, and understanding whether the targets that we've set for ridership and revenue are being met, and if not, why, and what can we do to make changes. We'll have data that speaks directly to route and segment ridership. We can break down stop activity, where people are getting on, where they're getting off. We'll know the degree to which we're managing on-time performance. We'll be able to understand how long it takes to get from point A to point B on any route or any section of a route. We'll know the speed of our buses. We'll have the ability to actually make promises to our customers. We can tell them what to expect, and we can have KPIs that customers understand and measure the customer experience. ITS allows us to manage our service and to report out on how well we're doing. The implementation strategy for this plan essentially deals with a September 16 launch, and there's 4 reasons for that. One is it spreads the costs, the first year costs, over 2 years. Second, it allows us the opportunity to bring in or take delivery of the fleet that we've ordered for 2015 and that we will order for 2016. We need the additional fleet to meet the service level commitments. It allows us time to recruit and train the drivers that we need, and allows us time to create a marketing plan that's going to cause people to want to use the service and then communicate that plan to them. You'll see the results of the September 2016 implementation in the bottom table, indicating that the first year cost would be $300,000, not $800,000, and the recommendation would be that that be funded out of gas tax, so that there is no net effect to the tax levy. And that's what the route network will look like when we're done. It's pretty comprehensive, and you'd be hard pressed to identify the differences between what you're seeing there and what we currently have. There are some gaps, and any that are seen to be too pronounced could be addressed using something like the home-to-hub service with modified parameters. So home-to-hub is not just something that we use for North Oakville. We could apply it to anywhere. We could apply it, for example, to the southeast of Oakville, along the lakeshore area. You also notice the extensions into Mississauga, Route 24 at South Common Mall. We get extraordinary ridership out of that. The extensions out into Clarkson in the east. In the west, those are new extensions. In the south, you're looking at Route 14 extending into Appleby Station. That extension provides us the opportunity not only to service a 4th GO station, but to connect with GO Transit at that station, along with 10 Burlington Transit routes. And in the north, we would intersect with 9 Burlington Transit routes in the north. So essentially 19 Burlington Transit routes feeding 2 Oakville routes. Launch milestones, we've already passed one. In July of this year, we launched the home-to-hub service in North Oakville. In the fall of this year, we're going to launch the customer-facing functionality of our intelligent transportation system, and then in December of this year, we will commence servicing the new hospital with 3 fully accessible stops on the hospital campus. And then in September of 16, we would launch the new service design. And the plan's a 5-year plan, so it doesn't end with year 1. 2017 to 2020, we'll see increased frequency on additional routes. It'll see route extensions into North Oakville. Those extensions, in a couple of cases, one will go to the Trafalgar Park and Ride at 407, and another one to the Bronte Park and Ride at 407. There'll be a couple of new routes added and extended hours of service. So the plan's innovative throughout. It's responsive. It's giving our customers and our non-riders what they said they needed in order to ride our service. It's affordable and sustainable. It achieves the vision of transit first, and success is measurable. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. You've got a few. Councillor Hutchins, Councillor Elgar, and Councillor Lapworth.
Mr. Cole, thank you very much. It was a very comprehensive presentation, and I appreciate all your hard work and effort that you and your staff put into this. A couple of things I wanted to ask you to specifically to make it clear to everybody. The commingling home-to-hub service, that would apply throughout Oakville, not just in the north. So Southeast Oakville would have that option as well.
Home-to-hub, through Mr. Mayor, home-to-hub doesn't apply to all of Oakville. It applies to those areas that we designate. So at the moment, we've designated 2 areas in North Oakville. The plan would be to use that service delivery model to implement transit at the earliest opportunity as new developments arise. Those would eventually be converted to fixed route service. If there are other areas of Oakville that are underserviced or deemed to be underserviced by conventional fixed route service, we could apply home to hub to those areas.
Well, that's what I heard you say, that when you mentioned that Southeast Oakville potentially could become a home to hub if it was undersupplied.
Correct.
Okay. You also said that you improved access from the sort of hospital, the present hospital area to the new hospital. Could you detail how that is so that people listening and would understand that?
Well, there's two things with respect to access to the new hospital. First, there's two routes that would provide direct one seat, in other words, no transfer required service. One would be on Route 3. That will service the Bronte area, the South Oakville Centre, where it'll connect with a number of our routes, as well as the Bronte Station, where it'll connect with the GO train and other routes, and then take people north to the hospital. Route 5 will operate out of the Oakville GO Station, north on Trafalgar, west on Dundas, servicing the new hospital. So anyone using those two services can get to the hospital without having to change buses. Virtually every other resident will have access to the hospital with only one transfer.
Okay, that sounds fair enough. Buses on the downtown old on Lakeshore part. It's hard to tell from the maps, but as I understand it, the bus service there will not be continued. It will go a little bit north and around the Lakeshore section, the downtown Lakeshore section.
That's correct. One of the routes that's being eliminated would be Route 2. That will leave a section of Lakeshore between Chartwell and Maple Grove without service. The service just to the north of that, Route 11, is having its service hours expanded, so instead of being an AM and PM peak service, it'll be an all-day service Monday to Friday.
Okay, so this is not the Lakeshore right downtown. You're talking about the Lakeshore between Chartwell and Maple Grove only.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's Lakeshore from approximately Trafalgar east.
Okay, so the downtown would still, from say Navy to Allen, would still have bus service traveling down that route.
It turns north at approximately Reynolds. Right, yeah. So the Route 2 is off of Lakeshore in the downtown.
It's off, so it's not going to be on the downtown
Yeah,
Lakeshore.
Route 14 will run just parallel to it to the north.
Okay. All right, well, there's a little difficulty here. Maybe you could help me. When I asked about the Lakeshore Road becoming a flex street, I was told by Mr. Cozy that the reason for it wasn't chosen was because of the wheelchair access on the Lakeshore Road needing sidewalks. Now that there's no buses on that particular section of the street, that reason is no longer germane. So I'm wondering how I can present that to, I don't know whether I should ask Jane Closey or Ray Green or what, because of the implications of that, because
certainly in the detailed design, which we're in right now, we'll take those things into consideration. But I would note that this is a 5-year plan, a transit plan, so this is the best arrangement for this 5 years. But we are building a road that'll last much longer than that. So we need to ensure that for over the longer term, we have kept the options open to still be able to provide transit along Lakeshore with no long-term issues.
well, I note that too, but also, as you may have heard, that Mr. Cole and I did pretty extensive surveys and testing of the ramps that are coming down, which are new construction on buses are happening, and the 1 to 8 slopes on them are perfectly capable of picking up wheelchair access from the street. And as I understand it, Flex Street has a small lip anyway, so there shouldn't be an issue. But I'm just trying to find out how the impact of no buses now on Lakeshore will, because as I said, Mr. Cozy answered that question when I asked it directly, you know, why couldn't Lakeshore be a flex street like Navy? And the answer was because of wheelchair access needing the sidewalks. and it appears that they're no longer necessary the sidewalks are no longer necessary as there's no
Councillor,
buses.
maybe I could suggest that when the downtown streetscape comes back to council, we could debate what kind of treatment for the surface.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And your colleagues and yourself can work that out.
Fair enough.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Cole?
No, thank you.
All right, then Councillor Elgar, then Councillor Lapworth, and then Councillor Giddings.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. My question is of Nancy, and just thank her for bringing the numbers. I just want to go over the numbers one more time. Just so I get it right, the 10-year historical is an average and was 32 million, correct?
The 10-year, the envelope based on the 10-year historical average was $12 million. The growth costs identified in the background study were $32 million.
The growth is, so it was 32, the growth was 12?
Yeah, so the growth, the actual projects, the actual growth needs, so the buses that are in the forecast were $32 million. The envelope, based on the historical average, was only $12 million. So what we had to do was fund the difference from gas tax. So we actually funded $32 million worth of expansion buses or new buses and equipment in transit, but we could only use $12 million of development charges, and the rest of it had to come from gas tax.
But the 12 million got further reduced by another 10%.
By the 10%, that's right.
Which dropped it to 11.
11.7.
Then I heard a number of 140 million.
So I wanted to just show you in context with the Transportation Master Plan. So when we did the development charge background study, we had $12 million net of the 10% discount that we could spend. We also had gas tax, so that's what they put in the study. But the Transportation Master Plan actually identified $145 million worth of transit capital improvements that were required to 2031. Based on the existing legislation, there is no way for us to actually afford that without burdening the taxpayer significantly. So at this point, we can only put in what we can afford to do to make some progress towards that Transportation Master Plan. But we can't fund everything that's required.
So our service level, we can't increase it.
Right now we're tied to that 10-year historical average. So as much as we're trying to increase and expand our service, that's sort of holding us back. We're supplementing that with gas tax right now. If we could actually fund what we need, what our master plan says we need, we would be eligible for $145 million worth of development charges.
That's what I was trying to get to. Okay, so I did hear it right. Okay, so we need a change in the Development Charges Act, ASAP. Thank you.
It's a very timely discovery, isn't it? Councillor Lapworth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Cole. Could you go back to slide number 9, please? Okay, it must have been slide number 8 then. No, sorry, no, it is number 9. What is the difference between faster and more frequent?
Faster deals with travel times, the total travel time. More frequent service is just the time between buses. So instead of waiting 30 minutes for a bus, frequency would increase to 15, for example. So, or if you're 20 minutes between buses, you're 15 minutes. The frequency deals with, the faster deals with the whole trip from start to finish. How long did you have to wait for it? How long did you have to, actually, how far did you have to walk to get it? How long do you have to wait for it? How long were you on that bus? How long did you have to wait between buses? That speaks to connectivity. So the whole travel, the travel time, the whole trip is faster.
Thank you. And slide 30 was the other one.
I'm sorry, slide?
30.
33?
30.
30. I'm not hearing.
That's it.
There we go.
Okay, the second bullet, the last item, speed and running time. I know Councillor Elgar and I, we've had some concerns about the buses running southbound on Colonel William, and it's sometimes exceeding the speed limit. Are you able to monitor the speed of the buses at all times?
Absolutely. There's two parts to that. Running time is essentially how long it takes a bus to get from point A to point B. The speed of the bus, yes, this system will allow us to manage this or monitor the speed of the bus. We'll know if a bus is in fact speeding on a particular route or section of the route. So if you had a complaint from a resident about a bus on a particular road, we can actually check the speed of that bus at that time.
Excellent. I got one last question that I hope it's related. Can one top up one's Presto card online?
I'm sorry?
Can you top up your Presto card online?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor, I've recently learned to do it. If you need help, I'll be glad to volunteer. Councillor Giddings.
Thank you very much. In terms of the Clearview area, losing a couple of routes, and specifically in terms of what are our plans for the high school students that are there that may be making use, because most of the residents up there, or the students, have to walk to OT. Will they still have, or will we be maintaining a school special?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, short answer, yes. We hope to be enhancing them. As a matter of fact, the school special that operates out of the Clearview area to Oakville Trafalgar Memorial Hospital currently only operates in the PM because the AM services fixed route services seem to be sufficient. So we would be expanding it to AM and PM for sure, and then we would be taking a look at how close we are to capacity and whether or not there's a need for a second bus spaced 15 or 20 minutes apart from that. The current school special is operating at about 94% cost recovery. Our school specials range in cost recovery from about 91% to a high of 194% cost recovery. So it's not an issue putting on a school special. So if there is a need, we can certainly add one.
I'd appreciate that, because right under the new proposed route of, forgive my eyes, Route 12?
Route 12.
It will go via the Clarkson GO train station and loop around back, which makes it
correct.
A fairly long trip.
Correct.
Great, thank you.
In cases like that, that's where we put school specials.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Lischenna.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Cole, for that presentation. Quick question for you. Those were pretty impressive survey results. How confident are you in those results that people will actually get out of their car and onto the bus? Was there any secondary analysis done to make sure that those were quite good numbers?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Secondary analysis was cross-referencing our survey results with the town citizen survey results and with the Metrolinx survey results. So essentially all three surveys, they were all independent, and they all came to essentially the same conclusion, that if you increase frequency and reliability, you increase ridership.
So there is data in those other surveys that the post work done that they actually did get into the bus?
Correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Grant.
Thank you, and this dovetails nicely with Councillor Lischenna's.
Lischenna.
I keep getting, I'm sorry.
Nah.
Okay. And that was good for everybody watching at home. This is more of a congratulations and a question to the fact that I often, having pushed for the app since I think 2005, and I've mentioned this to Ms. Phoenix before the meeting. This is a great step forward. This is a fantastic report. It's not the reports that we normally get where, well, we're going to try this. This actually has vision, and I've often said that you can't walk the talk about speaking against gridlock and improving air quality if you can't improve your transit system. So although we can moan over what routes are here and what routes are lost, or what areas get the pickup service at the door. The great thing is that having that app on a phone means that people can actually plan their routes ahead of time. I especially love that some of our senior centers can have the option of having a TV in their lobby so people can see when the bus is coming and how to get to it. And I just really want to congratulate you, your staff, and your consultants on putting this forward. This is really an excellent step forward for a town the size of Oakville. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor DeMoff.
Thank you. First, I want to commend everyone involved with putting this together. I think I said this at CSC as well, but just a tremendous plan to do a lot and make a good use of our existing resources to provide better service. So Councillor Lashina's question made me think of something. Do you know the number for the increase in ridership on GO Transit since they went to half hour?
Through Ms. Burton.
Okay, because I'd heard
know.
astounding numbers, like when they went from hourly to half-hour service, ridership went through the roof because of frequency, and I didn't know if you knew what the exact number was. That's fine.
Yeah, I do know it went up substantially, but I don't have a number for you.
Okay, and you can actually set your Presto card up, Councillor Lapworth, that it does it automatically. You don't even have to log on to put it on. I do have a question. When you were talking about home to hub and then you're going to go to fixed route services, based on what Nancy was saying with the shortfall in development charges, and will we be able to actually implement those new routes as new developments come in, or will we have a shortfall?
Well, the 5-year plan, this 5-year plan considers transition, and it considers the buses required for the service. So within this 5-year plan, yes, we're also going to be looking at expanding that to a 10-year plan to coincide with our 10-year capital forecast.
Okay, so getting to that 145 million that we require within the next 5 years, we should be okay to be able to put service into those new areas, though.
Through you, Mayor Burton. I'm seeing you.
Mr. Green.
Mayor Burton, just for clarification with respect to going out to 2031 in the Transportation Master Plan, there were really two components. One was to deal with growth, which relates to DC. There's still a shortfall, but a large percentage of that increase of the $100 million was actually increasing the modal split for existing delivery of service. So I don't want council thinking the shortfall is $100 million on development charges. It is substantive, but in the Transportation Master Plan, if in fact we continue down that line, actually looks at getting transit up to about a 12% modal split. And that's up from about 2 to 4% today. So a large part of that is actually improvement in service as well. But there is a shortfall in development charges.
So for extra clarity, because the province is reviewing development charges right now, and the only change they've put on the table is to do away with the discount on development charges for transit, it's too soon to say. We'll know by the end of the year better what's going to happen on development charges, and there's a lot more water to go under the bridge before we can say for sure what we're going to do. At Halton Region, as you know, growth and planning in Oakville is a two-handed affair. There's a Halton hand and an Oakville hand. And at the Halton level, Oakville's a partner with the municipalities of Burlington, Milton, and Halton Hills. And we all face this funding problem. We all face this challenge of meeting the modal split. And even though when you model increasing the modal split, there's more transit revenue to be seen. You know, if you assume you're going to 12%, you're going to see more revenue. Right now, I'd say the dominant thought at the regional level is we may not be able to afford to continue to allow growth unless the province gets serious about funding the costs of growth. And last regional council meeting passed a resolution alerting the province to our concern and declaring that if they aren't going to get serious about fixing this, we might not be able to accommodate their targets, which is plain talk for maybe we'll have to shut growth down until they do fix it. So in my mind, there's no risk to the taxpayer that they're going to have to pay for this. Our position as a council, I'm confident here, and I know at the region, is that growth must pay for itself. And when you see these large numbers, you see why council here and council at the region are so adamant that these sums must be paid by growth and not by the existing taxpayer. So I just want to reassure everybody that we're still very strong on this. Councillor Elgar, a little earlier, kind of opened the first salvo of what I've just shot off, and I gather he's got a couple of rounds of his own to launch, and we'll go to you, Councillor, right after we hear from Councillor Knoll.
I wasn't done.
And we won't do that until Councillor Demoff is done. I beg your pardon.
That's okay. Thank you. You mentioned it at CSC, but I just wanted to confirm, when GO goes to their 15-minute or proposed 15-minute service with electrified rails, we'll still be meeting, be able to meet those with our new schedule as well, right?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we'll be able to meet it during peak.
Yeah.
And we'll be operating 30-minute off-peak still.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Knoll, good news. It's your turn now.
Thank you. A couple questions. First of all, I noticed that the link to the Trafalgar Road commuter hub at the 407 is still off into the future. What do you have a general crystal ball? I've got a lot of constituents asking about access to that hub, and I'm just curious, what does a crystal ball look like in terms of when that could be implemented?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe the plan has that in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. But it is in the 5-year plan, and at the moment there's virtually nothing between Dundas and there.
Right.
So as that starts to fill in, we look at moving service north, and that expansion up to the 407 Park and Ride would then have people to carry and people to pick up and drop off on the way.
Okay. In terms of the survey that was done, I mean, the top two reasons were, I think pretty obvious, and it's good to validate them. Where did the access and the success of the Presto Pass fall in that survey? Does anybody, are you measuring any sort of, net benefit or net deficit in terms of that program in Oakville at this point?
I'm sorry, to the Presto?
Yeah. Are we getting a good take-up of the Presto program in Oakville?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, our uptake is the third highest, behind only GO Transit and Brampton. Right now, we sit at about 68%. We will be all Presto by the end of this year, with the exception of cash fare.
Okay. Now, there have been some growing pains with Presto. I mean, one of the things, it's funny, Councillor Lapworth was asking earlier about loading online. This is one of my biggest pet peeves, because my son commutes to Toronto High School, and so Dad has to be constantly making sure he has enough on his Presto card. But one of the multiple frustrations I find is, one is that it takes 24 hours if you do load online. So if he gets stranded, or if any passenger gets stranded and you try to load up your card online, good luck, because it's not going to work. So there are some IT bugs like this. Is there a plan ahead to try to deal with some of those things?
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, Presto is working on shortening the period of time before that load shows, but you can get around that now simply by using auto load.
Right.
So if you set yourself up on auto load, I have my son on auto load. So I feel for you, and it never gets below.
My son exceeds his auto load, and if you're watching, watch it, boy. Yeah. So and I've heard this with a frustration with others that have tried to use online and get really frustrated because they don't understand the connection. But that is something in the works.
Yes.
And what about the connectivity? Because again, I'm also hearing about people, and our drivers are great. They don't throw people off if the tap isn't working. If for whatever reason there's a communications failure. I've heard horror stories in other jurisdictions where they do. Are they getting their heads around the technology around the radio communications as well?
The radio communications between agencies, or
I'm not sure what the actual connection is, but in order to ensure that the
cause of the failed taps.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
And do we have an idea of what the percentage is, and where is there any kind of metric that we're working on right now, a number of percentage of failed taps?
I don't have a percentage for you. Okay. I could get it for you.
I'd be curious to know what that is and whether it's improving and where we're going with that, because I do know that people do get frustrated when they tap and it doesn't register. And again, it's great that our Oakville drivers are generally pretty flexible. But I think it speaks to the reliability of the program, the Presto card program.
Well, our policy is that if the card fails to tap, if the machine doesn't accept the tap on, that the person rides. So we have a vested interest in ensuring that those occasions are minimal.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we do that because, again, I've heard where that's not always the case, and people have been left to try to figure out the online access, which doesn't work. So thank you. Again, my congratulations, too. I had reason to be doing a little bit of canvassing recently for our new colleague and talking to some constituents, and one of the things that I'm hearing is this very, very positive reaction from the community in terms of the service and how people are feeling, particularly with the 30-minute go and the connections to the 30-minute go and the responsiveness of customer service. So big congratulations on behalf of my constituents as well as some of the Ward 6 constituents I've been talking to recently.
Thank you.
Thanks. I've listened with a great amount of interest. I wasn't at CSC the other night, and you've put a tremendous amount of work into this. You've talked to an awful lot of people, and you've given us a lot of information, almost all of it really good and exciting and beneficial. Are we satisfied now that the people of Oakville understand all this? Or have we got more work to do now in a different way to present to them what you presented to us so that they'll clearly understand the benefits that they can look forward to?
Yes, we have a lot of work to do from this point to getting people to understand the benefits and to getting people out of their cars. And that's where the marketing plan comes in that was referred to at Community Services Committee. So we would be starting to work from the moment this gets approved. Assuming it's approved, we would be moving forward on developing a marketing plan and then working on a communication strategy for that. So there is a lot of work to do in that regard.
And assuming that this gets approved this evening, when will you start that marketing plan? Maybe that's already been announced.
Well, we would start developing it now.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Your Worship.
Any other first timers? Councillor Elder. Yeah, thank you. I just didn't want any miscommunication where I think I heard it said that growth will pay for growth, which will not happen until there's some changes from provincially to allow us to get growth to pay for growth. I'm concerned that people used to think that because we've heard for years up until 2000 that the growth pays for growth. It's actually good, whereas it costs the taxpayers every time there is a building of a house in Halton Region.
So I didn't hear anybody here tonight say that growth pays for growth, only that we're united, I believe, in our demand that until and unless it does, we're not going to be willing participants in it. And the resolution we adopted last week at Regional Council is evidence of our concern that we're not getting the kind of funding for the infrastructure like transit that we need. Tonight, we've demonstrated that there's a $20 million shortfall in this piece of the Transportation Master Plan and another $145 million difficulty lying ahead. So I'm pretty sure nobody heard anybody say growth pays for growth.
Okay, well, that's good news. And yeah, when you talk about the modal split, like the region for the last 20, 30 years has been 5% of modal split. And in our last forecast, we're shooting for 20%. So we're building the roads actually to become more congested, unless everybody jumps from the 5% to the 20% using the modal split. So we've got some big challenges ahead. I don't think we'll see traffic patterns get better anywhere as long as we have that until we reach the modal split of 20%.
Aye, laddie. Aye. All right, Council. It's been duly moved by Councillor Adams and seconded by Councillor Elgar. This and the rest of its companion pieces in the two standing committee reports. Shall I put the vote? All in favor? Opposed? It does carry. And there are no consent items, no confidential consent items, but we have discussion items. The first discussion item is a fairly straightforward matter to appoint Ward 6's new council member, Natalia Lischina, to the Administrative Services Committee until November 30th, 2015. Councillor Adams.
Would you allow me the honor of moving this item?
Councillor Adams, you have moved the item. Councillor Knoll, was that you seconding? Discussion, all in favor? And that carries. Yes, you may. There's. Now, Council, I have suggested to Councillor Lischina that she spend the next several months committee shopping. So I hope you will see her at your committee meetings, and at the end of the year, when we make committee appointments, she will be better able to put forward her request for which committee she wants to be on. As you know, all of our committee meetings are open to the public. Everyone is welcome to attend, and I hope that you will bid her welcome when she shows up and help her see the ropes of whatever committee you're on. So thank you for that. Now, second, in response to Councillor Demoff and Councillor Dudek, and to our delegations earlier this evening, we have the licensing fee renewal for bed and breakfast establishments item, and it's a little bit of a funny label, because what we mean to do is to waive these licenses. Councillor Dudek, do you want to speak to your motion?
I think the delegation pretty well explained the whole situation, and we look forward to the public consultation process to deal with this.
And Councillor Demoff, as a seconder?
Just very briefly, this is coming to council, and in fairness to the three existing bed and breakfasts, I'm pleased to bring this forward with Councillor Dudek.
Thank you. Other discussion? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. The next item for discussion is the Blue Dot campaign. You have the report from the Environmental Policy Department in pages 37 to 44, and the recommendation is that their report and comments be received, and further down in the agenda or on another occasion. I'm not sure if I understand that. Councillor Demoff and Councillor Elgar, are we intending to take this revised motion up tonight? I think we are, right? Okay, so the first thing that's in order is the recommendation to receive the report. Councillor Dudek? And a seconder. Councillor Lapworth, all in favor? Opposed, if any? The report is received. Councillor Demoff.
I just had a question, because in the report it gave a suggested recommendation. So do we need to waive the rules to deal with this motion tonight, or can we just deal with it?
I think we gave notice of this
okay.
for tonight, so.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
By my understanding of our procedure bylaw, this thing is before you now. Duly moved by you and seconded by Councillor Elgar. Would you like to lead off?
I'd be happy to. Councillor Elgar and I have just made, what was in the report, we made 2 changes to it to include on the sheet that you have in front of you, the last 2 paragraphs, applying the precautionary principle as well as considering the cost to human health and the environment. And both of those come directly from the Blue Dot recommended motion, and they've been included in other municipalities. So when you're looking at the revised motion, just for clarification, those are the 2 things that we have added, and they're directly from the Suzuki suggested motion. So just by way of background, this is a grassroots initiative in communities across the country to push for recognition of the right to a healthy environment. As Oakville joins the growing list of municipalities, our goal is that there be support to influence the province, and then once a majority of provinces are on board, the right to a healthy environment could be incorporated into the Canadian Constitution. What a wonderful day that would be for our country. As the motion reads, all Canadians have the right to breathe clean air, the right to drink clean water, the right to consume safe food, the right to access nature, the right to know about pollutants and contaminants released into the local environment, and the right to participate in decision-making that will affect the environment. Roughly 181 of approximately 190 countries worldwide recognize to some degree environmental rights. Surprisingly, Canada is among about 12 countries that don't, along with the United States, China, and Australia. Norway's constitution has embedded that, quote, every person has a right to an environment that is conducive to health and to natural surrounding whose productivity and diversity are preserved. Natural resources should be made use of on the basis of comprehensive long-term consideration, whereby this right will be safeguarded for future generations as well. As we've seen so many times with legislations, it's municipalities that lead the way on environmental issues such as pesticide, tanning bed restrictions, and much more. So Oakville already is a leader by far in the environmental policy initiatives that we have taken, and let's hope that the province and the federal government listen to the citizens across our beautiful country and follow the lead of Oakville and other municipalities across Canada to enshrine environmental rights into legislation.
Thank you. Councillor Elgar?
Yes, thank you very much, and I'm really pleased to second this motion that Councillor DeMoff has brought forward tonight, because there are issues nationwide. It's unfortunate our MP didn't stay around tonight to listen to this, because he could take up the charge federally. It was just released on July the 15th, or July 16th actually, 2015, from the Rockefeller Foundation. It was called the Lancet Commission on Planetary Health. And as a commission, they concluded that the continuing degradation of the natural systems threatens to reverse the health gains seen over the last century. In short, we have mortgaged the health of future generations to realize economic and development gains in the present. That's basically the summary of their report that just came out a few days ago. So I think our timing is good to get this moving across, here and also across all of Canada, and get our federal government engaged. So thank you very much. I'm really pleased to second this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Elgar. Are there other speakers? Shall I put the question? All those in favor? Yes. Those supporting the motion, please rise to be recognized for the clerk. Councillor Adams, Councillor Grant, Councillor Knoll, Councillor Lapworth, Councillor Elgar, Mayor Burton, Councillor Hutchins, Councillor Giddings, Councillor DeMoff, Councillor Duddick, Councillor Robinson. And to be recorded in opposition, please rise to be named. You're abstaining?
I'm abstaining. Sorry, I'm not understanding. I thought it was a report that was received, and then I saw the motion prior to today.
Okay. So under the Municipal Act, an abstention is a negative vote. So you'll be recorded in the negative unless you wish to be recorded in the positive.
Can you repeat that, sorry? Negative is an abstention? No, abstention is
So,
negative?
under the Municipal Act, there are only two ways to vote, yes or no. And anyone who seeks to abstain or not vote is recorded as voting in the negative. So I'm happy to declare that the motion is carried. For information, I'm just sharing with you that you'll be shown as negative.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
So, based on this.
You could turn your mic on.
So based on this, we're writing a letter to the Premier and the Prime Minister.
So
is there any...
For any resolution, skip past the whereases and go to the therefores, and that's the operative part of any motion. And so what happens is those three things that are listed there, the two letters get written and a copy of the resolution gets distributed.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I will agree with that. That's fine.
All right, so we'll show you as supporting it also.
Okay.
All right, thank you, everyone. That carries. Now we have, and now if it's okay with you, you could cut your mic. Good. Very well. You're a pro already. Now, you have your advisory committee, no, there are none. You have your information items, which have been circulated electronically, and your status of outstanding issues. Now, is there new business? A notice of motion distributed at the meeting right here from the notice of motion team known as Councillor Demoff and Councillor Elgar. And so this is a motion to come forward at the next council meeting. Councillor Demoff, would you like to explain it or speak to it?
I'd be happy to. We currently, in the town of Oakville, we do not sell water bottles in our town facilities, in our arenas and in our community centers. And we've been doing that for a number of years, certainly since I've been on council in 2010. And I was really disappointed on the weekend to go to the Oakville Children's Festival and see a town-run event, which I should preface by saying it was an amazing event, absolutely incredible. But there were water bottles being sold, and I realized that there was a gap in our policies, our procedures, that doesn't actually restrict it and have groups told. And I've been assured by staff that going forward, that will be included for our events. But I just, you know, after we're gone, it would just be nice to have it enshrined, because it's something that our tap water is tested, it's inspected, it's safe. And if we can try and encourage, restrict the sale, and also work with community groups and other user groups to recognize ways that they can reduce water bottle usage, to use our very healthy, very clean, environmentally friendly tap water. So that's where the motion is coming from, and I'm quite happy to wait until the next council meeting and allow people to come forward if they wish to.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elgar, did you have anything to say about it at this time?
No, I support in the direction that Councillor Demoff is going. I think it's a good idea so that we walk the talk where possible.
Thank you. All right. Any regional reports or questions regarding town boards and advisory committees? Seeing none, I wonder if I could add, any requests for reports? It's a meeting without a request for report. Summer. Must be summer. Councillor Demoff.
I actually had a congratulatory thing under new business as well. Would that be okay to go backwards?
Now's the time.
Our Pan Am athletes from Oakville, I just wanted all of us to extend our congratulations to those that have been performing so well. I haven't actually seen any Oakville athletes, but I have attended a couple of events, and the pride and the joy that these young athletes, when they're winning, and Oakville is so incredibly well represented, so well that I don't want to name them all in case I miss anyone, but just extend congratulations to those that have already won medals and performed in their events, and to those coming forward, and also to Councillor Sean O'Mara, who is overseeing as voluntary chair of the boxing, and how proud we are of what he's doing for the Pan Am Games. So congratulations to all involved.
Thank you, Councillor. I wonder if I could have a move. Councillor Knoll.
I just wanted to add on to Councillor Demoff's congratulations. Also, we have another Pan Am volunteer in our midst. The newly elected councillor that we've heard about earlier, Councillor Lischina, is a volunteer doctor with, I believe, the Canadian soccer. All the soccer teams. So she's a sawbones with the soccer teams, and as a volunteer and doing a great job. Lots of great pictures on Twitter as well of her activities.
All right, thank you very much for that. How about a mover and seconder for the bylaws? Councillor Elgar, Councillor Hutchins. So this is authority for the bylaws as published in the agenda and uncorrected by any action tonight. Well done. All those in favor? Opposed? The bylaws are carried. So that completes our agenda and our work together tonight. I want to thank everyone for your time and attention. I want to congratulate our new member, Councillor Lischina, for fitting right in. And I have to tell you, it is really great working with you, and we are adjourned.